Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, October 30th, 2020, and today we're going to be taking a look at 538's forecast and discussing the Senate, House, and presidential forecast, and I'm sure from the title of this video, you know what this is about. We are 4 days away from the election, and this is the same story that I've been telling. But now we're going to be taking a look at the forecast and seeing where the Democratic Party is actually getting these numbers from and why it's actually building up to be a Democratic wave year. The election is very, very close, and I'm actually going to be making an announcement pertaining to what I will be doing for Election Day. Unfortunately, I will not be live streaming. I will discuss why. It's practically, long story short, it's been 4 years building up to this moment, 3 years on my channel. I'd actually like to, spend it with my family and a few friends. We're doing it outside, so it's socially distanced, but that's just the route that I would want to go on election night. It's been a very stressful 4 years. Every election year is stressful, but now I get to see if my results are actually accurate. And I know many of you guys were expecting or really wanted a live stream, and I do apologize for that, but I think this is just in the best interest of myself, and that's what I would like to do. But I will be, hopefully, if I fix my computer, having a live stream the day before the election. So I guess I don't really need to do an announcement video, but half the people don't make it into this far into the video. Usually they'll just skip to the end, but this isn't a prediction, so hopefully you guys are there. I will make a video, a short, very brief video just discussing it. Hopefully we'll be doing a couple of things that I don't traditionally do. I will have a face cam for that if that matters at all, but yeah. So moving past that, sorry about that. We're almost 2 minutes into the video. Let's get into it. So today, Joe Biden has a roughly 89% chance of winning the election. Donald Trump has a 10% chance. This is why we are starting to see numerous races in the House of Representatives and the Senate favored the Democratic Party. The Republican Party could have won the Senate. I don't really think the House was really ever in play, but when we're looking at the Senate elections, they were easy for the GOP. In January, there was no real reality in which the Democratic Party came to a point where they stand today now at 52 seats. They were going to lose the state of Alabama, and depending on who the Democrats put up in Arizona or Colorado, those races were still competitive. New Hampshire, Minnesota, Virginia, and Michigan were all states that could have been competitive, yet only one remains competitive. So right now, Joe Biden maintains an 89% chance of winning the presidency and an 8.9% point lead over Donald Trump nationally. So it actually matches the 538 forecast. So I think that also in itself is very fascinating. We are looking at a challenger to an incumbent that the likes of which we have never seen. Keep in mind, since 1992, every president has been reelected. Donald Trump probably won't be reelected based off of these odds. If you were to put money on it, you'd obviously go with Joe Biden, but you can't discount someone who has a 1 in 10 chance of winning. That still means it's possible. It's by no means out of the question, but I will say that it's a lot more out of the question than where it was a month ago. So as we've seen over the past few months, the chances of winning have dramatically increased for Joe Biden. Around the summertime, or actually right at the end of the summer, Donald Trump had a 32% chance at winning. While Joe Biden still maintained 67%, this was roughly the 2016 numbers. As we got closer, Donald Trump's chances dropped to roughly 10 points. This is the lowest it's ever been. And in terms of the popular vote, Donald Trump and Joe Biden still had a point where there could have been some crossover in a best-case scenario for Trump, but as it stands today, it looks as if there's no possible way that Donald Trump wins the popular vote. We're talking a 3 in 100 or a 3% chance that Trump wins the popular vote. Biden has a 97% chance of winning the popular vote, so it's very possible that Joe Biden wins the election and the popular vote, but Donald Trump has a much better chance at winning the election than he does at winning the popular vote. Now, in terms of a landslide, Donald Trump has a less than 1% chance at winning in a landslide, whereas Joe Biden has a 29% chance. That's comparable to Donald Trump's chances in 2016, so I'd say that's pretty strong for Joe Biden. Now, the chances that Trump wins the popular vote but loses the electoral college is close to none. That realistically just wouldn't happen. But there's an 8-point chance that Biden wins the popular vote and loses the electoral college. An 8% chance doesn't mean it's impossible. If those were your lottery betting odds, you'd be very happy with them. So an 8% chance isn't necessarily out of the question, but also it's not likely. It's just there. It could happen, but I'm not saying this is the most likely scenario whatsoever. A tie is absolutely not going to happen. I'm not going to say, I really don't want to jinx it. I don't want to go into a tied scenario, but it doesn't look like that's likely to happen. Donald Trump has a roughly 23% chance of winning a state Clinton won in 2016. Biden has a 98% chance at winning a state Trump won in 2016. So much better for Biden. The numbers all favor him. And like I said, it's trickling down into down ballot races. In the Senate elections, the Democratic Party has a 76% chance at winning control. They average 52 seats. Take a look at this distribution. The Democratic Party has way more possibilities at winning the Senate control. And honestly, like I said, this Senate map should have been much more favorable to the Republicans than how it stands today. I mean, we were talking about the possibility that Colorado and Arizona would be states that we heavily focused on. And while they may have been heavily focused on for the past couple of months, the Democratic Party is pretty confident in their victories there. They're much less confident in possibly winning North Carolina or Iowa or Maine or Georgia Senate special election. But the thing is, at the beginning of the ratings on this map, Iowa was, safe for the GOP. Kansas was safe for the GOP. Montana was safe for the GOP. Texas was safe. South Carolina was safe. All of these races, 5 races that are now competitive. And while the GOP may be either favored or very close to winning, it's still the fact that it's competitive. The Republican Party has had to fund tens of millions of dollars across these states, tens of millions of dollars in South Carolina alone. They spent millions of dollars in Kansas, in Montana, in Texas. Every single one of those states voted for Donald Trump in 2016 by 9 points or higher. I just wanted to point that out. The Republican Party fielded some pretty bad candidates, and the Democratic Party really amped up their efforts. I think the only fault on the Democratic Party's side this time around was in Texas, when they didn't push Beto O'Rourke to run, because after that whole gun statement, I really don't see a political future for him in Texas specifically, but definitely nationally. He's definitely going to end up in the Biden administration. But as we're looking at this Senate map, the Democrats are the favorites in Arizona. They are the favorites in Colorado. They are the favorites in Michigan. They are the favorites in the state of Maine. In Iowa, they are the narrow favorites. In the state of North Carolina, they are the favorites. In Georgia Senate special election, they are the favorites. So when you're looking across the country, the Democratic Party is expected to do very well. While the GOP does pick up the state of Alabama, outside of that, I'd roughly say that the Democrats should be very happy with where they stand. The Senate chance has always started off with the Democrats in the majority, but that was back in August, and if you had shown me this back in January, I would have said, the Republican Party definitely has a much better chance than they do today. Now, I did expect the races to expand for the Democrats. Maybe some forecasts didn't, and a number of political pundits definitely didn't as well. But, I saw what happened in 2018, and I said, it's very possible that this happens again. Now, that was all speculation. It is no longer speculation. The Democrats are leading by the same point as they were on the national generic ballot in 2018 as they are in the presidential margin. It's only 1 point under on the generic ballot for 2020. So this election is shaping up to be very good for the Democratic Party. Not only does the presidency show it, but the Senate shows it as well. The forecast, as you can see, went from being at a low point for the Democrats with a 57% chance of winning, 50-50 in the Senate, which would still be controlled depending on who wins the presidency, expanding up to be an average of 52 seats in the Senate. 52 seats in the Senate. These are all of the closest races. These are the ones that are expected to be the closest out of the election season. We have Georgia. We have Georgia Senate Special. We have Iowa, North Carolina, Maine, Montana. And guess what's next? It's not Arizona. It's not Colorado with 2 Republican incumbents. It's the state of South Carolina. South Carolina, Jamie Harrison, the Democrat, has a roughly 23% chance at winning this election. A year ago, it would have been less than 1. Jamie Harrison went from being 17 points under Lindsey Graham to tied, according to B-rated pollsters. We're looking at South Carolina. We're looking at it very heavily. And, Lindsey Graham went from 88% down to 77%. That 10% decrease has meant a lot to the Democratic Party. The projected vote went from being a 10-point margin down to a 5-point margin. The lead cut in half by Jamie Harrison, and while I don't think that he will win this Senate election, the fact that it's even competitive and remotely possible is a statement to where the Democrats stand today. Because Arizona, a state that voted for Trump by 4 points in 2016, Colorado, a state that voted for Hillary by less than 5% in 2016 with Republican incumbents, McSally replacing John McCain. I mean, the GOP could have played that much better, but they didn't. Cory Gardner, who could have played it as a bipartisan who votes with Donald Trump over 90% of the time, he can no longer do so. So Colorado and Arizona are voting now to the left of South Carolina, of Kansas, and Alaska. I mean, I'm just looking at the numbers. South Carolina, Kansas, and Alaska. These states are going to be closer than Arizona and Colorado, and the fact that there's Republican incumbents should be very warning. Should be a fair warning to the GOP that they are on track to lose numerous seats, because we are looking at a race with a number of lean Republican seats. But 1 in 25 is not. 1 in 4 is not impossible. It's not likely, but it's not impossible. Weirder things have happened. So the Republican Party should not only be worried about states that they are not the favorites to win, but there's a very real possibility that the Democratic Party performs better than they are expected. Now, it's possible the GOP does as well, but we haven't really seen any energy on the GOP that's comparable to 2016. There's no longer that argument about the silent majority. Have you seen the way that Trump rallies are held? Have you seen the way that the Trump campaign has been campaigning? It's far from silent, and they're far from the majority. So when we're looking at the Senate elections, when we're looking at the presidential election, a lot of the outward support that we've seen for Trump is it. You may personally know someone who agrees with Trump and is voting for him, but is not outward in their support of him because they may be afraid of the political climate we are in. I personally know supporters on both sides that are afraid to either have a yard sign or to publicly endorse a candidate, whether through social media or post who they're voting for, whatever it is. And I understand that. We are in a volatile environment. But when pollsters are calling, Trump supporters are probably the first people to say, I am voting for him, because the polls all say Biden is up. And, while they do have a fair representation of America, you can't really argue that Trump supporters don't like pollsters. Now, they may not like them, but they're going to answer them. They're going to try to say, they're voting for Trump and get their voice heard. And while many people on the right-wing media may not trust the data that's shown right in front of them, there is no indication that the Republican Party is on track to outperform what's expected. So, as long as you're clinging on to 2016, you do have to acknowledge that even with that result, Biden wins the presidency and Biden wins Texas in that scenario. So I really don't think that's a good argument for the GOP. But as it shows on the 538 forecast, they are predicting a blue wave not only on the presidential election. Biden is able to flip numerous Trump states. We'll get to that right now. He's flipping Georgia. He's flipping Maine second. He's flipping North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, Nebraska second, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. That's pretty important. In South Carolina, the Democrats are poised to pick up the states of Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, North Carolina, Georgia Senate special election, and Maine. That's a net 5 seats with their loss in Alabama. That's how they go from 47 to 53. But it gets better for the Democrats. The House of Representatives, according to 538, has a roughly 98% chance at retaining Democratic control. 98%. We are talking about the Republican Party having a smaller chance at winning the House than Joe Biden does at Alaska, at South Carolina, at winning those states, at winning Mississippi. I mean, the fact that the Democratic Party has such a large majority in a House they lost 4 years prior, nothing has changed about the way the districts are drawn with the exception of 2 states. Those 435 House seats have remained the same. The Democratic Party is doing much better. Arizona's 2nd District is a perfect example. Martha McSally held that district. It is now safe for the Democrats. And if we're look at the average. I don't know if you recall, but the Democratic Party currently only has 232 seats. Now, obviously, there's vacancies, but they're expected to pick up nearly 10 seats in the House of Representatives. Picking up after 2 years ago when they picked up 41 seats is big news. If we're looking at the current House, right here actually, 201 Republicans, 1 Libertarian, and 233 Democratic seats. So it's off by 1. That's an 8-point pickup, an 8-seat pickup for the Democratic Party. And honestly, it is very possible that, with 50% of scenarios going above that average, that they win more than that. That's crazy. That's unheard of. The Democratic Party went from being, very solid in their majority, but possibly losing seats, to expanding their election majority. Look how this has changed over time. The low point for Democrats was 91. Their high point is today. They go from, at this point, they weren't actually losing seats, but they were only gaining 2. Now they're gaining 8. It is possible that they gain more than that. I mean, the Democrats are expected to win the popular vote in terms of this election by 6.7%. 7%. They won the last one by 9. So while that may be narrowing down, I really don't think that the national average will vary too much from the down ballot races, which is exactly why, Joe Biden's performance, stellar performance, nationwide is going to lead the Democrats to victory in the House, in the Senate, and of course, winning back the White House. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord link for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch, and then a playlist for my 2020 election predictions. We're almost 3 days away. It's very exciting. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you all later today.